Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of our Harvard and Stanford Q&A/discussion. First question is going to be, what is one specific thing, or what is a thing or multiple things that you wish you knew before arriving on campus?
The first thing I wish I knew is time management. You don't realize how long it actually takes to get around and go to classes.
Yeah.
It takes so much more energy. You have to go do things.
I think the thing that I do is I take a to-do list and then I write how much time it's going to take, and I add half an hour of dead time for taking a break or for finishing the task that kind of goes over the limit that I think it is, because it always takes longer. Maybe your partner is not showing up on time, maybe your Wi-Fi is lagging. There's a whole host of issues that you don't anticipate that you have to create extra time for.
One thing they tell us in the design and engineering schools is whatever time you think it's going to take, multiply by 3.
That's true.
Yeah.
For most things. I think there's a quote in general that's most people overestimate what they can do one day and underestimate what they can do in 1 year.
Yes, correct.
What did I wish I knew before arriving on campus? I would say dress comfortably. Especially for me, I have this thing where I just assume that the joy of looking good is gonna supersede the pain of wearing things that are not convenient and practical.
I disagree.
Well, here's the thing. I lived on the 5th floor walk-up, so I would wear heels sometimes, or boots that have heels, and you forget one thing, your entire day is screwed. You gotta go up and down again. You have to be very conscientious of your living choices and the habits that you take on, depending on where you're assigned, right? It's different living somewhere far away from the dining hall or somewhere far away from your classes than it is living close, than it is living in a building with an elevator, than it is living in a building without one. I think it's never a one-size-fits-all approach to what you think you know before arriving on campus. So don't plan a 9 a.m. class if you know you're not a morning person.
But I wouldn't necessarily say don't do something based off of your previous experience. A lot of people arrive college and they have this beautiful chance where they can reinvent themselves. And if you know you want to be a morning person, but you've had trouble with that maybe in high school or in the past, there's no reason why you can't start.
But the thing is, there's such a permanence to choosing a class at a certain time. If you find that you're a very stable person and that when you're very definitive about making decisions, you'll stick to them, by all means become a morning person at your own risk. Number 2, to what extent do you think going to college is necessary to have success in today's world?
If we define success as just having money, having friends,
doing well in what you want to do and being able to create a sustainable career and living from it is success.
The answer that I like is that yes and no. It depends on what you want. Mm-hmm. And it's because we have fail-safes in society, which if you want to be a certain type of engineer, a doctor, a nurse, these kind of more high stakes, and a lawyer, and need a lot of rigorous training that they really hold your hand through, then yes, an education, I would say, is necessary. Mm-hmm. However, if you're a little more scrappy, more industrial, more entrepreneurial, and you're not afraid to motivate yourself, if you're an artist, not at all. I don't think college is necessary at all, and I don't think college is right for anyone. If you don't get into a certain mid-range to high-range college where you can actually get proper training and education and get your money's worth on certain things, I would say just go to community college. Every case is a little unique, but I will say college is not necessary. Community college can teach you just as well on the specific class.
Okay, so my next question would be, it's not even written down, how well do you think modern college and the education system prepares people for today's current world and economy?
I think it really depends on the school. I would say the vast majority of schools...
let's just do overall.
Well, all you have to do is look at the economy, look at numbers, look at how younger people are not buying homes as much as their parents were at their age. Younger people are not getting married. They don't feel as stable. They don't... the money they make for most fields, most industries, except for maybe tech, per dollar is not doing as much as it once did in previous generations. And because of that, there's an argument to be made that this whole system, which traditionally includes the university pipeline, is not catering to our needs and is not enough. But again, schools like Harvard and Stanford, we have these stereotypes of the tech bros, the law bros, whatever, the finance bros, both have great medical schools, medical programs, and there are some fields which are going to be unaffected by this.
In terms of the skills and the core curriculum and the things and the values and the principles that are emphasized overall in these schools, do you think that prepares people to kind of just say hard work is enough?
I'd say the good schools do, and the good schools adapt every single year.
The good schools. What do you mean by good schools? Like, how do you define a good school? Like, on the ranking of the
Technically,
best
those
schools.
are great schools.
Technically,
yes.
yeah.
There are other great schools. Depending on the field you're looking at, you look at the program, you look at what is the job success rate once they come out of college, what is the average pay. And if those two things are above the U.S. median.
How do you think their approach to teaching them about the real world is conducive to them succeeding?
Universities right now still, as they always have, serve as a microcosm of society at large.
Right.
You're going to get professors who are nicer, give you much more leeway. You're going to get professors who take no shit. And in real life, you're going to have bosses who are super nice and lazy, just like you. You're going to have bosses who don't have time for any shit and reflect all their insecurities onto you because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
College is just a slightly more protected place to introduce you to the real world. In college, you have a certain safety net. We used to have a high school teacher who would call it the ivory tower of universities. Where you can go up there, study for a few years, and then come down to the real world. And it's very much like that. In a lot of these colleges that have a lot of pre-professional programs and a lot of links to the real world, they have a lot of networking opportunities which allow you to essentially go as deep as you want into the real workplace. Mm-hmm. But if you don't want to, you also have the option not to. And so I think in that sense, a lot of these colleges can prepare you really well if you put yourself out there and take advantage of it.
Yeah. So is it easy or is it hard to fit in at your school? Like, do you think there's a specific kind of person who is more likely to find a spot socially thriving in your school than another?
Yeah.
You can go as broad or as specific as you'd like.
I'd say my school is definitely more of a happy place. The general social climate, we'll say, is more receptive of liberals, Democrats,
I would say the same
people.
thing.
Not to say that we don't have very strong opposition.
No, I agree, yeah.
Stanford has a very healthy amount, but what was the question again?
Is there a specific, like, how hard or easy is it to fit in? And then the second part of that question is there a specific kind of person who's more suited to kind of find their place socially than another? So for me, I would say, I think there's a crowd for everyone. Finding that crowd is kind of a gamble. You kind of have to play the numbers game. Like, the more people you meet, the higher likelihood that you will find that kind of perfectly suited crowd for you, and people who will really understand you. I mean, you could get really lucky and the first 5 people you meet become your best friends. I think in terms of the people who are most suited to fit in at my school, I would say somebody who's very kind of adaptable. They can kind of, have a very good sense of social awareness, because based upon the diversity of the activities you do, you have to adapt the way you talk, your lingo, the topics you talk about. Because Harvard is putting an emphasis on kind of getting people of different socioeconomic and geographical backgrounds, I think the person who is the most well-suited to fit in is somebody who has a willingness and an open-mindedness to kind of accommodate the way that they communicate to each circumstance.
Anyone who has there's
decency.
A group for everyone.
Right.
And there are those who don't have that group, who don't want a group.
Right.
And there's plenty of those. Those people do exist, where they only have a smaller circle, versus somebody who is more social and outgoing will know hundreds of people in their class and in the classes above and below. So there's that in crowd, and then there are the pockets.
The in crowd. Yeah, I would definitely say there's kind of an ambiance of an in crowd at Harvard in terms of the people that everyone kind of like knows their business, and whether that's kind of like a facade they put on to give you impression that there's an into their life, or whether it's just really people just know about them. The main mistake that anyone can make is thinking that somehow it's like more valuable to be part of the in crowd. I mean, I think everyone...
That's not at all.
I think everyone has FOMO, but like get so caught up in it, and it's the same thing with high school or any bubble.
The more in someone is,
right,
the more time they're giving up from what they're actually what they're supposed to be doing at campus.
Yeah. Is it difficult to balance your daily life? Like, what percentage of the time would you say, I can do this, I don't know what the equivalent of a girl boss is for men, but like I'm a man boss? Or
a boss.
I'm a boss. I'm bossed up. What percentage of the time would you say you're like, oh, I'm a boss, versus I'm like a loser, like I can't do this. This is so much work. This is so difficult to juggle. I feel like I'm drowning.
Well, it has nothing to do with my school. It has everything to do with the individual.
Ooh, so you're saying it's all about like mindset of how to balance things.
I know people who are struggling on the bare minimum, and I know people who are thriving, taking units over the technical maximum unit count. Everything is basically about time management.
Time management.
For myself, if I'm lucky, maybe in a quarter, I might watch some TV shows. One TV show at most. I might have gone in this whole last year to see one movie, but there are some things you just have to give up, and I have no problem with that. I would much rather create and then create connections with people
than just consume.
But
I think there's a certain shame that comes around. At a certain level, we're brainwashed to consume content all the time, but I think there's also a shame that we attach to relishing in consuming, like relishing in a book or in a movie. And then I also think there's the distinction between it's more noble to consume some artistic, film that was made in the 60s versus TikTok,
Well, the nobility of a consumption.
Right. That is another discussion.
The nobility of the consumption is very much based off of how hard it is to do. Very easy to look at a TikTok.
Less than 60 seconds.
I actually pride myself that I almost never use TikTok.
You pride yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't actually interest me very much. Consumption of social media is very easy.
Requires a lot less cognitive effort.
Consumption of TV shows also
Well, it really depends on the show.